Marley was dead, to begin with. There's no doubt about that. He was as dead as a doornail. Marley and Scrooge were once business partners, but Marley died and now their firm belonged to Scrooge, who was a stingy and heartless old man. On one Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his office. It was very cold outside, and in Scrooge's office it was not much warmer either. Bob Cratchit, the clerk, shivered under his coat and worked by the light of one candle. Suddenly a cheerful person entered the office. It was Scrooge's nephew, Fred. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle," Fred said. "Bah," said Scrooge. "Humbug." "Christmas a humbug, Uncle?" said Scrooge's nephew. "You don't mean that, I'm sure." "I do," said Scrooge. "What's Christmas time to you? You have to pay bills without money. You're a year older but not an hour richer. Keep Christmas in your way and let me keep it in mine." "Keep it? But you don't keep it," said Scrooge's nephew, who was a very friendly young man. He tried to convince Scrooge of the wonder of Christmas and heartily invited him for dinner on Christmas Day. But Scrooge declined and sent him out.
When Scrooge's nephew left, 2 gentlemen came in to solicit donations for the poor who had no food or home. Stingy Scrooge, however, didn't give the gentlemen any money. "Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?" he asked sarcastically, and told them to leave the office. When it was time to close for the day, Scrooge talked to his clerk, Bob Cratchit. "You'll want all day off tomorrow, won't you?" said Scrooge. "If that is quite all right, sir," answered the clerk. "It is not all right," said Scrooge, "and it is not fair. After all, I have to pay you for the entire day, though you don't work. But if it must be, I want you to start work even earlier the next morning." Cratchit promised that he would, and the 2 left for the day.
Scrooge lived all alone in an old house. The yard was very dark and snowy that night, and when Scrooge wanted to unlock the door, he had the feeling that he saw Marley's face there. The lion head on the door knocker was Marley. But Scrooge was not frightened easily. "Humbug," he said, opened the door and walked in. He locked himself in, however, with several locking devices attached to the door. When he felt safe again, rested before the fire. Suddenly, Scrooge heard a noise down below, as if somebody was dragging a heavy chain, and the noise came nearer, and then Scrooge saw locks mysteriously open. A ghost was coming right through the heavy door. It was Marley's ghost, and his chains were long. They were made of cash boxes, keys, and heavy purses. "Who are you?" said Scrooge. "In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. But why do you come to me now?" "I must wander through the world, and I wear the chains because I forged in life. I only cared about business, but not about the people around me." "You were a good man of business, Jacob," Scrooge said. "Mankind was my business. Now I'm here to warn you. You still have a chance, Ebenezer. 3 spirits will come to you. Expect the first tomorrow when the bell tolls 1. Oh, I think I'd rather not, if it's all the same to you, Jacob." The ghost rattled his chains. "Expect the second at the stroke of 2. Couldn't they come all at once and have it over? The third, more mercurial, will appear in his own time." When he had said these words, Marley's ghost disappeared, and the night became quiet again. Scrooge went straight to bed without undressing and fell asleep immediately.
When Scrooge awoke, it was still very foggy and extremely cold, and there was no noise of people in the streets. Marley's ghost bothered him. He didn't know whether it was a dream or not. Then he remembered a spirit should visit him at 1 o'clock. So Scrooge decided to lie awake and wait what happens. Suddenly the clock struck 1. Light flashed up in the room, and a small hand drew back the curtains of his bed. Then Scrooge found himself face to face with the visitor. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white as if with age, and yet the face had not a wrinkle in it. "Who and what are you?" Scrooge asked the ghost. "I am the ghost of Christmas past. Rise and come with me." The ghost took Scrooge back in time to a place where Scrooge was a boy. There Scrooge could see his younger self playing with other children. They were cheerfully running around the Christmas tree. Scrooge called to them, but was told they couldn't hear or see him. A smile appeared on the old man's face, which showed he had good memories of the fun they had. The spirit also took Scrooge to a warehouse where Scrooge was an apprentice. Scrooge saw the Merry Christmas Eve they spent in the office with their boss, Mr. Fezziwig, and his family. There was food and music and dancing, and everybody was happy. Scrooge was dancing with the beautiful girl. Old Fezziwig. A silly man, spending a few pounds and dancing like a monkey, the ghost said thoughtfully. Silly? Why, no. The joy he gave, why, it was as if it cost 1,000 pounds. How long since you danced, Ebenezer? Scrooge ducked his head. There was a reason, then.
Then the spirit took Scrooge to yet another place. Scrooge was older now. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a beautiful young girl, Belle. There were tears in her eyes. "It is sad to see," she said softly, "that another love has displaced me. The love of gold. Your heart was full of love once, but now? I think it is better for us to part. May you be happy in the life you have chosen." "Spirit," said Scrooge, "show me no more. Take me home. Why do you torture me?" "One shadow more," said the ghost. They were in another scene, in another place. A room, not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. There was a happy family celebrating Christmas with all their warmth and heartiness. Scrooge recognized Belle, his former girlfriend. She was married now and had children. "Belle," said her husband with a smile, "I saw an old friend of yours today." Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office window. It was not shut up, and he had a candle inside. I could see him there. His partner is dying, I hear. And he sat there alone, quite alone in the world, I do believe. "Spirit," said Scrooge in a broken voice, "take me back. I cannot bear it any longer." He struggled with the ghost to take him back, and finally Scrooge found himself in his own bed again. He was very exhausted and sank into a heavy sleep.
Scrooge woke up in the middle of a snore, just before the clock struck. He sat up in his bed and waited for the second ghost to come. And there it was, the ghost of Christmas Present. It had curly brown hair and sparkling eyes, and it wore a simple green robe with white fur. Its feet were bare, and on its head it wore a holly wreath. The ghost took Scrooge to Bob Cratchit's house, a very poor little dwelling. In the kitchen you could see Miss Cratchit preparing Christmas dinner. Her children were cheerfully running around. Then the door opened, and Bob Cratchit came in with Tiny Tim upon his shoulders. Tiny Tim was Bob Cratchit's youngest son. He bore a little crutch, and had an iron frame around his limbs. On our way home, Tiny Tim told me that he hoped the people in the church saw him, because he was crippled. It might be pleasant to them to remember on Christmas Day, who made lame beggars walk and blind men see. Bob's voice trembled when he said that.
Christmas dinner was ready, and everyone sat down at the table. As the Cratchits were very poor, it was not much that they had for Christmas dinner. Scrooge noted to the ghost the main course was a rather small goose. "That's all Bob Cratchit can afford," the ghost retorted. But still, everyone was joyful and singing. They all had the Christmas spirit in their hearts. "A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears," said Bob Cratchit. "God bless us, every one," said Tiny Tim. He sat very close to his father, sat upon his little stool. Bob held his little hand as if he feared to lose him. "Spirit," said Scrooge, who felt sorry for the boy, "tell me if Tiny Tim will live." "I see an empty seat," replied the ghost, "and a crutch without an owner. If these shadows remain unaltered in the future, the child will die."
Scrooge suddenly found himself with the spirit at his nephew's house. Fred and his wife hosted a very cheerful party and played games. Scrooge enjoyed the party atmosphere and wanted to talk to the people. The spirit reminded him they could not be seen or heard. Scrooge looked at the great number of happy people in Fred's house with amazement, but in a second it all faded, and Scrooge and the spirit were again on their travels. They visited many homes in many places. They saw sick people who were cheerful, people in foreign lands who were close at home, poor people who felt rich that day, all because of the Christmas spirit. Suddenly, Scrooge and the ghost were in a dark, damp area. The ghost of Christmas Present revealed two children-like figures were at his feet, a boy and a girl, but they looked old and dreadful, like little monsters. Scrooge was shocked. "Spirit, are they your creatures?" Scrooge asked. "They are man's creatures," said the spirit. "The boy is ignorance, the girl is want. Beware them both, but most of all, beware this boy," said the spirit. "Have they no place they can go?" asked Scrooge. No refuge? Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? The spirit turned on Scrooge with his own words. He looked into the dark sky and nodded. Yes, yes, it is time. Time for me to go.
The clock struck the hour. The ghost of Christmas present disappeared from the darkened street. And at the last stroke of the bell, Scrooge saw the third ghost coming toward him. Slowly and silently the figure came nearer. It was very tall and wore a deep black piece of clothing which covered its whole body and left nothing visible but one outstretched hand. "Are you the ghost of Christmas yet to come?" asked Scrooge. "I fear you more than any other spirit." The ghost did not say a word, and Scrooge was terrified. But he followed the ghost through the city, and Scrooge heard some men talking about a person who had recently died. Scrooge knew the man and wanted to find out who they were talking about, but he feared the answer. Scrooge and the spirit moved on.
They next stopped in an area where thieves and liars lived. It was a dark and foul place. The thieves sported stolen items and made fun of the person who once owned those things. "Ha ha," laughed a woman. "He frightened everybody away from him when he was alive. Why shouldn't we profit from the mean old screw when he was dead? Ha ha ha." "What is this? Only greed and avarice they display from this man's death? I'll have her before a magistrate. Those are not my things. No, spirit, I demand to see some tender emotion." Suddenly, the ghost led Scrooge through the streets familiar to him, and as they went along, Scrooge looked here and there to find himself, but nowhere was he to be seen. They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house and found the mother and the children by the fire, quiet, very quiet. The unusually noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues. When Bob Cratchit came in, the children hurried to greet him. Then two of the young children crawled up onto Bob's lap and laid their little cheeks against his face as if to say, "Don't cry, father. Don't be sad." "You went there today?" said his wife. "Yes, my dear," returned Bob with moist eyes. "I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green the place is. But you'll see it often. I promised him that we would walk there every Sunday." "My little, little child," cried Bob. "My little child." He broke down in tears, but one somber son said, "Don't grieve so, father. We are all here." Bob looked at his family, wrapped his arm around his wife, and said, "Yes, yes, I have all of you. I am a happy man, a very happy man." "I've seen enough. Please take me home," said Scrooge, with his head bowed in sorrow.
The ghost took Scrooge to a churchyard. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge was terrified and slowly went towards it. Following the ghost's finger, he read upon the stone of the grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. "Spirit," Scrooge cried, "hear me. I am not the man I was. I am not the man I must have been so far. Why show me this if I am past all hope? Good Spirit, I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall be within me. I will not ignore the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me that I may change my fate." Full of fear, Scrooge caught the spirit's hand, but the spirit suddenly changed. It shrunk and faded and finally turned into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own, and the room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, and he could make the best of it. "I will live in the past, the present, and the future," Scrooge repeated as he got out of bed. "I don't know what to do. I am as happy as an angel. I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits." He ran to the window and raised the sash. "Hello, hello there."
"Hello," a boy passing by returned the greeting. "What's today?" cried Scrooge. "Today?" replied the boy. "Why, it's Christmas Day." "It's Christmas Day," said Scrooge to himself. "I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. Hello, my fine fellow. Do you know the poulterers at the corner? And do you know whether they've sold the big turkey that was hanging up there?" "What, the one as big as me?" returned the boy. "It's still hanging there now." "Is it?" said Scrooge. "Go and buy it. I am in earnest. Go and buy it and come back with a man that I may give them the direction where to take it. I'll give you a shilling for it. Come back with the man in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown. The boy was off like a shot.
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit, whispered Scrooge cheerfully. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. He dressed himself in all his best, and at last got out into the streets. He had not gone far when he came toward the two gentlemen who had walked into his office the day before. "My dear sir," said Scrooge, "how do you do? I fear I wasn't pleasant to you yesterday. Allow me to ask your pardon. And will you have the goodness to accept—" Here Scrooge whispered in the man's ear. "Lord bless me!" cried the gentleman. "My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious? I don't know what to say to such generosity." Scrooge then went to church and walked through the streets and watched the people. Listening to the carolers, he placed several coins in their cup. He never dreamed that anything could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon he went to his nephew's house. "Fred," said Scrooge, "it's your Uncle Scrooge. I've come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred?" "Of course, Uncle Ebenezer. Hurrah!" Fred let him in and introduced him to his wife. She blushed and appeared very demure. "Fred, I wish to beg your pardon, but I see the shadow of my sister in your face. I loved her, Fred, and she loved me. I seem to have forgotten that for a time." He stayed for dinner and the games and had a wonderful Christmas day.
But Scrooge was early at the office next morning. He hoped to catch Bob Cratchit coming late. And he did it. Yes, he did. Bob was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat with his door wide open that he might see him come in. "Cratchit," growled Scrooge in his usual way, "what do you mean by coming here at this time of day? I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. And therefore," he continued, jumping from his stool, "and therefore, I'm about to raise your salary. A Merry Christmas, Bob." Bob Cratchit was very surprised and thankful. So were many people who found Scrooge so changed. Ebenezer Scrooge became a better person. To Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. Scrooge became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city or town in the good old world. It was always said of Scrooge that he knew how to keep Christmas well. May that be truly said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim would say, God bless us, every one.